Welcome to this session titled Themifying a Mature PowerBuilder Application, Aging Gracefully in a New Skin. I'm Ronnie Poe. So in this session, we'll look at historic challenges in presenting a modern-ish UI using PowerBuilder. And I say modern-ish because most of us aren't trying to be cutting edge. We just want our apps to not look out of place on a modern desktop. We'll look at the promise of UI themes, which is probably the single most significant development in PowerBuilder in the pursuit of a modern UI. And we'll look at how I customized a UI theme for my old app to finally get rid of some of the visual artifacts that we've been dragging around because of PowerBuilder. I'm a long-time PowerBuilder and SQL developer. My business name is Morpheon, and our main product is a healthcare app called Chartbase, which is a classic PowerBuilder client-server application. Let's look at how we got where we are. In the mid to late 90s, it was easy to create a PowerBuilder app with a contemporary Windows 95-like appearance. The PFC demo app could be considered a reasonable UI reference design. If you took an app that was modeled after the PFC demo app and you maintained it diligently, used the same fonts and the same colors whenever you added features, and you migrated it forward with each new release of PowerBuilder, by 2019, your app would no longer have a contemporary or even a consistent appearance. It would instead resemble a mashup of Windows 95 with the 3D borders and column headings, Windows 7 with the blue sheet windows and the fat borders, and Windows 10 with a thin bordered frame and main windows and white title bar. Before UI themes, MDI apps always had a telltale PowerBuilder look, which gave them an oddly dated appearance. Developers had to get creative to approximate a modern UI. And if you do a search, there are all kinds of presentations about tricks you can do with data windows to enhance your application's UI. And many developers use third-party controls to modernize their app's appearance. Here are some quick tips that we followed to try to optimize the appearance of our app. Use consistent fonts, don't overuse bold text. Adopt a muted color palette, so be subtle and don't try to call attention to yourself. Flatten and/or remove borders wherever possible. And finally, use optimum image sizes and formats. So make sure your pictures have enough resolution to avoid blurry or pixelated images. Avoid distorted images by displaying things at the right aspect ratio. And use transparency wherever possible. I'm sure you've seen situations where icons have a white background rather than being transparent. Here's a tip for figuring out the proper image size for a picture object. Use the data window painter. First, create a rectangle or text object that's the same size as the picture that you want to display, and make sure that the data window unit is set to pixels. This will show you the ideal dimensions of the image file to use, in this case 32 by 32 pixels. Here's another tip. If you'll be printing the image, like in a report, use 4 times the ideal screen resolution. In this case, use a 128 by 128 pixel image, even though the object on screen is 32 by 32 pixels. And here's how our app looked when we followed our own rules. Individual windows looked okay. But the app as a whole still had that PowerBuilder look, and it looked like a mishmash of different Windows stylings. And we didn't have control over the color scheme of our app. Users could hijack our colors by tinkering with Windows settings. And our sheet windows were stuck with the Windows 7 look, and it just looked like a mess. So could UI themes save the day? We'd already taken care to make most of the app look okay to us, so our goals were modest but somewhat specific. We wanted consistent window styling, and we wanted a consistent identifying app color. We wanted to get rid of this mishmash, and we wanted our app to have an identifying color that users can't tinker with, like Word and Excel have. Let's see what the built-in themes can do for the PFC demo app. So here's the app with no theme, and here's the app with the built-in theme called Flat Design Blue applied to it. And we can see immediately that the window stylings are now consistent, consistently flat with minimal borders, and we've lost that Windows 7 look. The active window seems to have a single pixel wide border that's colored. The theme seems to have overridden the 3D stylings of the data window. And the selected tab is blue. I'm not sure I like the color blue, but the theme seems to be working as intended. And if we were to replace all of the image files here with modern images, I think this app would look at home on a modern desktop. This is the Flat Design Dark theme, which can give your app a dramatic new look. We can see immediately that there's something going on here. This is a list view control that's set to view details. And it turns out that when you have a list view control in that display mode, the theme doesn't have control over this header section of the control. But aside from that, the app looks nice and consistent. If we were to replace the images with modern images, I think this would look just fine. The Flat Design Gray theme is a little bit more subtle, but I think that with updated graphics, this would look like a modern app. Flat Design Silver gives you a more striking update, but the app for the most part looks consistent. Again, except for this list view section, but the white in this design doesn't clash so badly as it does in the dark design. And with updated pictures, this would look like a contemporary app. So let's see what happens when we apply the built-in themes to our real app. We weren't looking for a dramatic overhaul, but just for fun, let's see what happens. So this is the Flat Design Blue theme. A little bit loud, or maybe too contrasty. The Flat Design Dark theme reveals areas in our app that are not reachable by the theme. Usually these are objects in a data window control where we're using a data window expression to set a visual property. We'd have to address all of these elements if we wanted to go with a dark theme. The Flat Design Gray theme is a bit more subtle, but if we were to use this, we'd still probably want to make sure that any data window expressions that we used don't create any clashing visual effects. And the same thing goes for Flat Design Silver. And let's look at a different screenshot applying the different built-in themes. After quickly trying the built-in themes, we reached some initial conclusions. If you're building a new app from scratch, or you have an existing app with minimal, unthemable elements, then the built-in themes work really well. They give you dramatically different options for skinning your application. It's virtually codeless to implement these options, and they're fully customizable. If you have an existing app where you've made substantial UI customizations through PowerScript and or data window expressions, then you'll probably want to create a custom UI theme. You'll need to make color and design decisions to make the theme consistent with the customizations you've already made to your app. And you'll need new graphic assets for various theme elements. And you'll need to edit the theme.json file. These are the steps that we took to create our custom theme. Copy and rename an existing theme as a starting point. Each built-in theme is represented by a folder containing a theme.json file and a bunch of bitmap graphic files. So we just copied the entire folder for Flat Design Gray and renamed it Elevate 21. And here's how we modified the copy that we just made. 3 easy steps. Turn off all theming except for windows and tabs. Lay out a mock-up of a tabbed window in order to pick the colors. And create new graphic elements for the window control buttons. To turn off theming, edit theme.json and set the drawing property to false for every control type except window and tab. And here's an example for the checkbox control. To choose colors, I recommend mocking up a window and tab control in a drawing program so you can visualize the design. Here's a mock-up for the Flat Design Gray theme. And here's our custom theme. I'll point out the changes that we made. We picked a custom color for the window title bars. We wanted the selected tab to blend in with its tab page. We wanted the tab page background color to be lighter than the window background. And we wanted data entry fields and text boxes to be white so they showed up against the tab page background. Next, we took the color values that we came up with and updated theme.json. And here's some examples for a tab in its normal state. So this is the background color of the tab, and this is the text color. After changing the window title bar color, the control buttons will no longer match. So we'll need to create new image files for all the window buttons. The image files are located in the themes folder and are referenced by theme.json. You'll need new image files for all the control buttons, with background colors corresponding to the button's states: hover, inactive, normal, pressed, and disabled. Each button state will require a separate 46 by 32 pixel image. And unfortunately, if you want a coherent look, there's no bypassing this step. So if you're not comfortable doing this yourself, you may need to enlist the help of a graphic artist. I have a sample EPS file that I'll make available as part of the session materials. Place the new image files in the themes folder. Then update theme.json to point to the new images. And that's pretty much it. Let's see how our custom theme works with our application. The effect is pretty subtle, but I think it's a huge improvement. We no longer have that Windows 7 sheet window embedded in a Windows 10 frame window. Let's look at some other sheet windows. You can see the most dramatic differences in a multi-window screenshot. Note the consistency of window coloring and styles. Let's have a closer look. Finally, you can add additional flourishes, such as command button styles, as you see fit. Now for a demo. Let's start with the location of the built-in themes. Beginning with PowerBuilder 2019 R3, they're going to be installed in the Program Files directory in the installation folder for your version of PowerBuilder in a subfolder called IDE/theme. And each theme has its own folder that fully contains all of the theme elements. So if we look at each of these, we'll see it's a bunch of graphic files for the visual elements of the theme, along with a JSON file called theme.json, which has all the settings. And so all the themes have those same elements. And you can relocate these, and if you're experimenting with these, I'd recommend making a copy of these themes and placing it somewhere in your application's development directory, and then modifying it from there. Let's look at the PFC demo app. Now this is the app as it shipped with, I believe, PowerBuilder 8, and all I've done is migrated it forward up to PowerBuilder version 2019 R3. So no other code changes. And you can see this mishmash of different window styles. The 3D borders, 3D column headers. So without making any coding changes, I can apply a theme. And if you, let me back up a step here. So going into the application painter, and I'm going to additional properties, going to the themes tab, and the top is where you specify the location of the theme, and so by default this points to that subdirectory we looked at earlier. But if you decide to move the theme folders or create copies of them somewhere, you would then just update the path here to point to them. So based on where that path is pointing, you'll see the names of those themes. So let's pick the first one and just say OK. I'll have to save our application. And so we can see that everything's flattened. The styling's different. If we look at our tabbed window, the tab pages look different. The 3D column headers are gone. The 3D sunken in borders are gone. Let's try a different theme. Flat design dark. So this one makes a dramatic change. And then we can see some anomalies here. These parts of the app are not reachable by the theme. And this again is the column header section of a list view. But besides that, the rest of the app actually looks pretty consistent. So if your app is pretty straightforward and you haven't done a lot of UI changes, themes are very, very easy, virtually codeless, or maybe 100% codeless if you don't have any workarounds like that list view that we saw. So let's look at our real app. And here it is without a theme. You can see the mix of different window styles. And now, just for fun, let's look at one of the built-in themes. So we can see there are some anomalies here, elements that were not themable for whatever reason that we would have to go in and take care of. So if we were to use this theme, it would not be a codeless effort. All right. I want to quickly go through the steps to create a custom theme. So let's start with the theme folder location, and I'm going to take the flat design gray theme and make a copy of it, and then I'm going to rename that copy. And then just to convince ourselves that that we made a copy, let's run that new theme that we just created. Okay, so that looks like flat design gray. So So that's enough. I want to modify that theme to match my new application design. So what I'm going to do is edit theme.json and turn off theming for everything except windows and tabs. So I'm going to go and replace drawing true with drawing false. And for the windows and tab sections, I'm going to update the colors to match the colors that I came up with in that mock-up of a window and tab from a drawing program. So rather than edit that here, I'm going to just take a pre-edited theme.json file So if we run that, we see our new window colors. A lot of the extraneous visual effects are gone. But we see that the control buttons don't match the new title bar color. So the final step is to create new graphic elements. And I happen to have those pre-made. So these are new buttons to match the new theme. I'm just going to drop them in there. And yet another theme.json, which points to those new graphic files. So all I've done was edited theme.json to update the colors in the window and tab sections, to point the window control buttons to the new image files that I've created, and to turn off drawing for the other controls that are not tabs and windows. And there you go. There's our custom theme. Taking a minimalist approach to modernizing our old app. And that's it for this session. You can connect with the Appian community, including myself, online. Thank you for watching.